Today, I want to talk about overtraining. For some people, it's almost impossible to overtrain because they can't get the level of intensity that is required for their body to start shutting down in response to activity. Jay Vincent, my boy, he talked about this recently, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to talk about that because it's not just about overtraining, it's about recovery, all these terms that we throw around, and it's also about intensity of exercise. So I thought it would be a good video, but definitely check out Jay Vincent's stuff because he breaks it down very, very simply. I like to ramble a little bit more. So he talks about how you can't train with enough intensity initially to even get yourself to consider overtraining. So the beginner shouldn't even be concerned about it at all. Just get in, just start doing something. Now, if you choose to do any sort of exercise, I would choose something like Jay Vincent's program or Drew Bay, because it's going to be much more guided towards getting results. Now, I've talked about recovery. Now how does this come into overtraining? Well, there's a couple different things. Number one, if you're training with super high intensity, you shouldn't be able to do the same workout again the next day. You should need recovery and you should kind of feel that inherently. But what's happened now is that a lot of gyms, especially like the smaller box gyms that are not the big ones, like the smaller like CrossFit gyms, they do like full body, super high intense exercise like throughout the week. They do a lot of these things because they're not geared. I remember I used to teach boot camp classes, and I used to teach them Monday through Saturday in the morning, and the same group of people used to come. And I started thinking to myself, some people come on Mondays only, some people come on Tuesdays only, some people only come once a week, some people do other things, some people come every single day. I can't tailor the workouts for the person that comes every single day. I have to tailor it to someone coming into the workout. But then I said, you know what? The same people keep coming every day. I have to tailor it more to them. So we're going to switch it up throughout the week versus just having a generic bootcamp class. So I started to realize that look, I'm going to kill these people if we do this high intensity exercise every single day. I've got to start switching, because no matter what I say, hey, you shouldn't be coming to this every day. It's too intense. They were still going to come. And so I started saying, okay, well, what are the consequences here? And I had seen some instances of overtraining with some of these individuals, especially because we would work out in heat, and that's another factor that increases the intensity. So if you're doing some form of high intensity training, I wouldn't want to do it every single day, especially when it's full body, okay, really, really hard exercise. So again, if I'm new to exercise, I could do that every single day. I could do a full body thing every single day because I can't get myself to that level of intensity. The people that I was training in this bootcamp class were already well versed in exercise. They knew how to squat, they knew how to lunge, they knew how to do a push-up. They could get the intensity level high. And that's why they came back to my classes, because they loved that I would push the intensity. That's what a lot of bootcamp classes do. That's what a lot of people are attracted to something like CrossFit. So if you are attracted to those things, I would, again, recommend looking at what are you doing throughout that week. If it's rotating different muscle groups, if it's changing levels of intensity, if you're doing vastly different things, that will help you from overtraining. But the recovery side of things, why is recovery so important? When you're at that higher level of intensity, if I don't get adequate recovery for that muscle group or just systemically for my whole body, I'm not going to improve. And I saw that a lot in my bootcamp classes. People stayed at the same level. They never improved. They never went up in their weight. They never increased the amount of push-ups they could do. They didn't increase. Once I had made that initial gain, I had been introduced and I showed them some of these things, and we started working out intensely or differently from some of the other instructors, and I started taking over all of the classes, we would make initial jumps, but after that, that was it. And that's like anything. Anytime you do something new, you're going to make some improvements, especially if someone is challenging you. Okay, if you're doing the same things, obviously you're not going to change. So you make some changes and then you plateau. Well, if you want to continuously, steadily, even by slight amounts, you have to track what you're doing. And this, I think, is the biggest thing in regard to recovery. If you're not tracking your workouts, you aren't going to be able to tell whether you're overtraining, which again is a word that we're throwing around. What I really mean is you're not getting enough recovery in between exercises, because overtraining is more of the extreme rhabdo type thing where you get sick, like bad things start happening. What I'm talking about is just adequate recovery. Everyone wants to optimize. So what is that exactly? I made another video on that. Depending on your level of intensity of your training, depending on your genetics, depending on your lifestyle, depending on the level of stress, depending on your nutrition, depending on your sleep, that's all going to change depending on the person. So if you're not writing down your sets, reps, your weight, okay, the time of the workout, if you're not looking at those variables and you're just going in and winging it, you're not going to be able to tell that on Monday of last week when you did your workout, you did 10 reps of this exercise at 155 pounds, and you did 12 reps of the other exercise at 125 pounds, and you look at all those different things, and you look at that and you go, okay, I did the exact same thing that I did last week. Okay, good. I'm not receding, I'm making sure that I'm keeping my level of strength, because really that's what it's all about. But if you're trying to improve and you can't see that, especially because you might be trained already and it might be a small increment, or it might be a small increment on the way down, and that's the biggest thing. If you go in and you can't do the same amount of work that you did the last week or the last session, you're probably not recovering, or your recovery wasn't as much good of quality. So when you record things, you'll be able to see if you are, like I said, overtraining. You'll feel it, but you'll be able to see it right away. I did 10 reps of the exercise last week. I did 5 reps today. Okay, I'm at 50% of my strength. That is not possible unless if you're overtraining, or unless if you're doing, again, a bunch of stuff the day before, which again, you should be incorporating into your program anyways. Again, your program should be sound that you're not doing things day after day if it's at a high enough level of intensity. If it's at a low intensity, you'll be able to do the same things every day. You'll be able to, again, this is more cardio type things, low intensity, dancing, sports, all those things you can pretty much do every single day. And again, you'll know when you need recovery, because you just won't have that level of energy and you just take a break. And usually that just means you take a day off or a day or two. But in regard to strength training and high intensity exercise, and if you're doing some of these other crazy things, you need that recovery in between. But how much, what is optimal, is going to depend on the person. And that's why recording your numbers, sets, reps, weight, time, whatever it is that you need to record, but seeing it down on paper versus just thinking about it, will allow you to see, am I getting enough recovery? And the biggest telltale sign that you're not getting enough recovery is you're not able to do the same amount, or you're not improving. Again, even if you are highly trained, you can still make improvements. Unless if you are much, much older and you've been training for a long period of time. Like even recently, I changed a couple things in my workout, and made initial gain, and then started to plateau. And then I changed some stuff with my diet. I changed some stuff with my recovery. I changed my stuff with my pre-routine, and I made improvements. So even someone like me who's been working out for a long period of time, who does work out intensely, even I can start making improvements if I get the magic number. And again, that's going to be different for everyone. And so sometimes that means taking more rest. For some people like myself, that was a big epiphany. I started making gains immediately once I pulled back on the frequency, because my intensity was there, but my frequency was too high. Most people, their intensity isn't there and their frequency is high. And if they started shifting more intensity, but they kept the same frequency, that would be bad. You'd end up like me, not getting the results. So that's why I would say, look at your program. And some people, they want to be in the gym every single day. They enjoy it. Well, that's going to then dictate how you go about your program. So again, a lot of these little details come into the individual. There's no one magic number about overtraining or recovery. And I made the video on that before. So your lifestyle, the level of stress you have, your diet, your nutrition, your sleep, all of these things go into what your body's going to feel like when you actually end up training that next day or that next session. So for me, I've found that I get much more out of taking a day extra than just trying to fit in more workouts throughout the week. So taking a day off, taking more rest. For me, I need that recovery because I'm much higher stress in my head. I respond to stress, not as good as some other people. I don't sleep as much. I tend to be very active on the other hours of the day because I am a trainer, I'm on my feet. And so I need more recovery because my body just can't handle what I'm putting it through. So less sessions. And again, the intensity side of things is something that I've worked up to. Now, if you're someone that can't get the level of intensity as high, that's something that I would focus on and work at because that's going to give you the best results of any training program. Every training program works if you work. If that muscle gets taken to fatigue and gets to that threshold that it then will give you the response, you're doing it right. And you're getting that response. So if you are doing that, you're going to need adequate recovery. So what are you doing to get yourself to that stimulus? Is it you're just doing an arm workout? Well, if that's what you're doing, then you can do another workout the next day. If you're doing a full body, super high intense session like I do, you're going to need recovery in between. And that's where we lead into the overtraining thing. If you're doing like a CrossFit workout and you're going to different gyms, like I was saying with my bootcamp example, and you're not taking into consideration that they're not thinking about you, they're training a group of people and they have to service their customers when they walk in the door fresh and new, they've never taken a class, and that person wants intensity, they're not going to tone down the intensity just for you. Now, they might have built that into their own program all the way, but again, you can screw that up by going to different workouts. Going to different gyms. I know tons of people that do that. So if that's the case, are you able to record your numbers? Now we got these other different devices and things like that. I don't really like using all of those types of devices to find out because I don't think it reacts as well as just looking at the cold hard facts of your numbers. What's your output in the gym if you're doing the same thing? Now, if I'm doing different workouts, then I don't know. If I'm doing different exercises, I don't know. And it gets harder and harder. And if you're someone that's more prone to stress, if you're someone that's not getting enough nutrition, a lot of times these things happen to females because their bodies just can't handle that level of load because they go through menstrual cycles. They need rest and breaks built in. A lot of times their diet, they're not getting enough food because they tend to eat a little bit less. They're smaller bodies, so they eat less. So if you're not getting enough, that's going to lead into it as well. So those people who are maybe not getting enough nutrition, not getting enough sleep, more prone to stress, working out and are able to push that intensity and then are also choosing that intensity every day, those are the people that are going to be prone to overtraining. And I say most people aren't going to be overtraining, but you can take that idea of overtraining and look at your program and say, what is my recovery? How am I optimizing my recovery due to the stimulus that I'm putting out there? If I'm not working out that hard, I don't need to worry about it. But if I want to get results, I need to be tracking and I need to be seeing how am I improving from one day to the next. Am I improving? Am I staying the same? If you start to then recede and start to go back, you're doing less repetitions, that's going to be the signal to say, hey, you are not recovering properly. You might not be overtraining, you just might not be recovering properly. To take it all the way into overtraining, you've got to do a lot, but there are some people that are more prone to that. The beginner, they're not prone to that. They can do anything, they can do a high intensity, they can do whatever, just start training. Once you make those initial gains, that's when I would start to, and you start to plateau, that's when I would start to look at optimizing your recovery. But most people initially don't need to even think about that. Just do something because something is better than nothing. Again, if I was going to recommend a program, I would recommend something from Jay Vincent, Drew Bay. Those are people that are going to teach you how to do things properly and give you the most effective, safest way of training your body. But again, there's lots of different preferences. You might not like that workout. You might say, hey, I want to be in the gym every day. Well, then that's just going to change your approach on those days of the gym to avoid overtraining and to maximize your results. Again, probably not going to be too much on the side of overtraining, but like I said, I've seen it before. So not very common, but it is out there. Main thing that you'll be able to see it way before you get to that overtraining stage. If you're tracking, if you're paying attention to the results that if you're paying attention to the numbers, sets, reps, weight, time of workout, if you're looking at those things, you'll be able to tell way in advance that you are overtraining. So check out the other video that I did about recovery times, because that's going to help give you a little bit better insight into it. And again, you can always work backwards. You could do super high intensity every single day, full body, and then work yourself backwards. But I'd rather have some sort of a plan of attack before I get to that, before I just kind of throw stuff on the wall. There's so many free programs and so many free things out there that you can look at, but at the end of the day, whatever you do, you've got to get the level of intensity high to get the results. If I don't get enough recovery from that intensity, I'm not going to respond to it, and then I'm not going to be able to grow. The level of recovery that you need is dependent upon lots of different factors. But again, if you're not able to get that level of intensity, then let's not worry about that right now. So beginners, they have a little bit different schedule. As you get more and more trained, that's when you need to start looking at your recovery. If you're a crazy person like myself who does things all out, goes crazy, can push the intensity, doesn't recover well, is more high stress, is more active, you need to be careful to not overtrain. I, fortunately, have never gotten to that point of overtraining. I've always kind of injected rest, and mainly because I just like to be a couch potato on days off. So the weekend, I usually end up getting like that. But I've been roped into things, and I get involved in things, and then, stuff happens. But now I train about once or twice a week, very high intensity, heavy weights. But I have found the balance for me, and I'm still making results, even though I've been training for a long time. So there's good possibilities out there for you. Use help, use resources, comment here. We can work things out. I can help you. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do, but I would say, hey, if I were you, I would try maybe looking at this or looking at that. There's, like I said, lots of different people out there that can help you. Drew Bay, Jay Vincent, those are the two go-to that I would direct you to. But again, at the end of the day, get in, work out hard, and get some recovery in between. I think that's the simplest way that I can break it down for you. So anyways, until the next time, I'll see you then.